Good evening, good evening, good evening. Today is National Grief Awareness Day. And as we do each year, this is the fourth year that we come to you live for our Spark of Joy with FGH. As we share often, because it is important for us to share with our audience as we get new supporters and grow, that Forgiven Hearts was founded in memory of two of my brothers, R.J. McKnight and John Paul McKnight. R.J. McKnight unfortunately died to complications due to having sickle cell disease, and John Paul McKnight unfortunately was hit by a car. Because of their lives, their memory is to spread awareness about various causes while also acknowledging the importance of mental health and grief, knowing that we all experience grief in different ways. There's no time limit on grief. Grief manifests itself in various ways and at all times. It is not something that most people can control. I dare say anyone really can control. It can come at night. Grief can hit you when it's a beautiful day such as today. So that is why we chose to do something a little different this year. For the past 3 years, we've always conducted our Spark of Joy at night. And that was very intentional, as sometimes when the day starts to wind down, the to-do lists tend to near completion or be put on pause until the next day. Our memories, our feelings, our emotions tend to hit us more and sometimes get the best of us. However, this year we wanted to acknowledge that sometimes it is not those night hours that are the most difficult. Sometimes it could be the day hours. Sitting at home, at work, it could be amongst friends, it could be in the middle of a party, it could be in the middle of a program. Grief does not discriminate. It shows itself when it shows itself. And if we try to busy ourselves, as many of us do, to cope or to manage or to get through our day, whatever the case may be, grief in many cases, and again I dare say in every case, will wait for you. So again, I share that grief is a normal response to loss during or after a disaster or after a traumatic event. And that is according to the CDC. Common grief reactions include shock, disbelief or denial, anxiety, distress, anger, periods of sadness, loss of sleep, and loss of appetite. And we know that the list goes on and on. But those are just a few ways that grief may reveal itself, that common grief reactions may reveal themselves. And again, that is according to the CDC. Grief can be a complex human emotion that almost everyone experiences differently. It usually is caused, again, by some form of loss, but it doesn't always have to be the loss of a life, which we know is extremely painful. It could be the loss of a career, loss of future plans, or even a cherished object. And that is according to BetterHelp.com. And I know most of us would agree. And although we are often told that grief has many stages, the stages of grief, according to BetterHelp.com, generally include denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance. We know this. But I tend to say that all of that may be true. But for so many people, grief may not have stages. Grief is just all over the place. We know, again, that grief not only affects the person who is directly dealing with whatever traumatic experience that they have gone through or are going through. Grief is something that affects so many of us. It affects us all, directly or indirectly, because we live with each other. And if we don't live with anyone, we work with others. And if we don't work with anyone, we at some point in our lives come in contact with someone, whether it is due to going to the grocery store or attending an event, going on vacation, even if it's just through our connection with people online. We are all impacted by grief. So at this time, I'm going to start our first sparkler. And of course, as I shared earlier, I'm going to burn this sparkler in memory of R.J. McKnight and John Paul McKnight. And as I shared, they are two of the hearts in Forgiven Hearts.